remember when it was, that I was hanging around Bill maybe at a Rotary meeting or something, and he just happened to mention this program that he had been involved with ACMi, and it was interviewing veterans and talking about their experience in their individual stint in the military. And I thought, that really sounds like a good potential program. So if you ever hang around me, better not talk, or I might just follow up with you on something. So Bill, as you know, many of you know, was a member of the Arlington School Committee for many years, background in being a teacher himself. But my favorite thing that Bill does is at town hall, he has put together a mock town meeting that 5th graders come to. So the school kids come, either they walk over if they're close enough, or they get bused. They come all dressed up. And before coming to mock town meeting, they have studied in school some warrant articles that they have to prepare. And some of them have to come prepared to make speeches, whether they're in favor or opposition to it. And one of their favorite ones is, should Arlington have a municipal swimming pool? So you can imagine, it's hard to be in opposition to that. So Bill himself comes all dressed up, of course, and he raps the gavel, and he swears everybody in as an official town meeting member, and they get started. And the kids absolutely love it. They take it so seriously, and it is absolutely one of my favorite events that we have at Town Hall. So here we are. It gets us to today. We have 4 vignettes, 2 veterans from the Korean War and 2 from the Vietnam War. So what we're going to do is Bill's going to talk a little about how this came together, and then we're going to show the first vignette and then pause it, and if anybody has reactions, questions, or anything, we'll entertain that and then keep moving on. I have to say, I think these vignettes are incredibly well done. It's very impressive what we put together here locally in Arlington. So, Bill. Okay.
I usually follow a normal size height person in height. So she's not going to be bringing it up and down. This started as an idea, trying to remember things that happened. You'll see, I'm one of the vignettes, and I'm not going to go into that right now. You get a chance to see it. We talked about it. Jeff Barn, who used to be at ACMi, I met him. We do Rotary does a Flags for Heroes thing, and some of us crazies do a polo plunge thing in January, which got moved to February. It's now been moved this year to March, but to raise money for polio. So Jeff and I were just talking about it, and he mentioned his dad was a vet, and I was a vet, and he said, yeah, some of those things need to be saved. So we came up with this idea of interviewing. I was the first one. There's a thread that goes through this, and unless I mention it, you won't see it, but a couple of those, he'll ask your name, what service, where did you serve, different things of that nature. And one of the things that struck me is your favorite song. And that favorite song is in the background through each one of the vignettes. And it's different. Each one of us has a different song. Little things. I mentioned I was in the 314th Field Maintenance Squadron. He found the patch. I hadn't seen that patch in 50 years. He found it somewhere online. I mentioned an incident. He found a clip. He makes it extremely entertaining. We thought we were going to lose him. He moved to Brazil with his wife. I constantly get emails telling me how cold it is in the 80s. He went right after a snowstorm. Thanks to the CPA, we were able to get a grant. He is now doing, the last 2 interviews were done by Zoom. They're not on here. He hasn't published them yet, but once they get published, they'll be out there. And I'll send Patsy the links. I can't tell the difference. They're just fantastic. So we'll let Patsy start the first one.
Okay, we're ready?
Last Saturday night I got married. Me and my wife settled down. Now me and my wife are parted. I'm gonna take another stroll downtown.
It was a destroyer, a little smaller than a cruiser, USS Preston, Preston. And I just went and signed on in 1951, and I stayed on that destroyer for the full 3 years of my commitment.
American troops have held back overwhelming numbers of the communist invaders. Our naval and air forces have been carrying the attack to the military bases and supply lines of the aggressors. Our men have fought with grim gallantry.
The role for the Navy during the Korean War was basically focused on the aircraft carriers and the planes that would take off and drop bombs to help our troops in the Korean War.
In these hectic days of the Korean conflict, Navy and Marine squadrons concentrate on Red Armies surging south across the peninsula.
And the best job I had was navigator. There's something, in those days, we didn't have the satellites. You used the sextant. You know, if you're out in the middle of the Atlantic, you're using stars. And there's something really magical about taking the star sites and getting yourself fixed within a mile, you know, in the middle of nowhere. I love that job. And of course, when you're coming in, like when we're going into Venice, I was the navigator getting us up the Adriatic and into the Venice Canal. So the different jobs I had were all interesting, and they were all above board. I wasn't down in the engine room. There were some down periods, and I had a court-martial some sailors. I mean, the story in some ways is humorous, but it was also tragic for them. The picture shows the ship out in the canal, so we needed to have Liberty boats going back and forth. And one evening, a group of sailors got drunk and missed the last boat coming out, the last Liberty boat. They looked down, they saw these gondolas. Said, oh, we'll take one of those. So they, in a sense, commandeered a gondola to get themselves back to the ship. And then the gondoliers and the other people on the St. Mark's Plaza, they were yelling and shaking their fists. You know, it almost became an international incident. It was funny, but I had to court-martial these guys, and I can't exactly remember whether we drummed them out of the service. We certainly put them in the brig for a while. So that was a kind of a down experience. We had a shore patrol duty in Norfolk.
Stop rambling, stop your gambling, stop staying out late at night.
That song was very popular. In shore patrol meant you went ashore and you just were trying to keep eyes on your own guys, not getting too high and so on. So you're walking the streets, and that song is just playing through all the loudspeakers. Good night, Irene.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night.
That song was during the 50s is when it came out. I think I'd like to say that you need to find some experience in some organization, you know, where you're mixing it up with a variety of people and you're kind of testing your own, you know, style and leadership.
Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
so that's our first one, and Bob himself is here. Do you have any comments, or anybody have any comments or questions?
Well, one comment I would make, since it was during the early 50s, most of the officers in fact, a lot of the enlisted men had been in World War II, because the Korean War happened quite soon after World War II. And these people had stayed in the reserve, had been in World War II, and really, in a sense, felt connected to the military. But being called back was not their first choice. They had just begun to build families. So it was a really challenging situation for senior officers who had been in World War II to be back away from their families, young children, and so on. So that was a real reality, which I didn't talk about in this interview.
Pamela, you said that your father was in that circumstance,
Yeah,
right?
well, my father was in, my father was career military, and he served both in the Korean War and the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And I can't remember where he was. He was in the Corps of Engineers, but I can't remember where he was assigned at this point.
I was listening to that. One of the things that I actually thought back on, so this was around the time when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I remember just starting to be aware of hearing, you know, in the family discussions of the communists and the Reds and the red curtain. And I just, as a kid, I couldn't figure out how did a red curtain come over Russia. It made no sense whatsoever. And communism meant nothing to me whatsoever. George.
My mom was an Army nurse during World War II, and after the war she had me and my sister, and she just had my other sister in May of 1950, and the Army tried to activate her again. But because she had 3 small kids, that wasn't going to happen. She's 103, she's still alive.
Oh,
and we still call her the lieutenant.
Bob.
Yeah, thank Bob and Bill and all veterans for serving. The interviews were done in the lounge area by the Council on Aging in the community building. And if you look at the background, you see the old rotary phone and the old typewriter, which just makes it look more vintage, even though it's recently done. And then part of the film showed the sexton. And for those who don't know, and I wasn't familiar with the sexton personally, but until Belmont Hill School, which is just over the hill from us, that's their symbol of their school is the sexton, and they're called the sextons, like the Spy Ponderers or the now. So it's just interesting.
We're going to see your father, aren't we?
I think I'm remembering the right war, but I was pretty young. I'm just 2 years short of Patsy, so I could have been about 7 or 8. And I distinctly remembering I had a comic book that dealt with the war, and I think it was the Korean War. And the page I remember, maybe it was the cover, was a typically dramatic picture of a North Korean pilot shooting cannon out the front of his plane and fire coming out of the barrel. And his caption was, "Die Yankee Pig, Tool of Wall Street." I didn't know very much about what that meant.
Tool of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I can remember that same time, same age, St. Agnes, we practiced getting under our desks.
Oh, yeah.
And I can remember later on understanding what a nuclear bomb was, how stupid that really was.
Yeah.
People just did not, they were still a World War II thought of getting under the desks. And the oil floors, my mother always knew when we did an air raid drill, because come home with black things.
Okay, Matt, let's move. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, this might be a really stupid question, but I wasn't born until the 60s, so what were you doing in Venice? That seems very far away from North Korea.
Well, the Navy deployed you to the Caribbean, and once in the Caribbean, you would go up the Adriatic to Venice. It was just all part of being worldwide presence.
Ah, okay.
And in some cases, it was on the way to Korea. You would go through the Mediterranean and down around the Suez Canal and so on.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
No, I mean, I was in Korea maybe for 6 months out of 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Carol?
I'm just looking at that sextant, and you said within a mile, but I'm thinking, how easy, I mean, if you weren't particularly good, wouldn't it have been fairly easy to make a mistake? I'm just looking at this instrument, how accurate was it?
In the navigation?
Yes.
It was very accurate with the celestial. You had all these charts that go back to Greenwich, England, and it was just amazing. You would be within a mile of the actual, with the sextant taking 3 or 4 star sites. Each star site gives you a line, and then if the lines cross at one point, you're delighted.
When you did it though, there were 2 of you that were doing it each time, weren't there?
Yeah, morning and evening.
Yeah, and if you weren't good at it, you didn't last long.
Okay, Matt, let's go on to our second one.
South Korean villages awoke to a world suddenly filled with noise and plague. The communists had finally launched their undeclared, all-out war of conquest.
I get a greetings from the president back there in 1954. I went in on my birthday, December the 7th. All right, that's when I got inducted. That's when I got my greetings.
Major General West, commander of the British Commonwealth Division, chats with Eisenhower, who then makes his way near to the front line, where a demonstration is staged under real fire.
Korea was going on. I says, well, I'll be going to Korea. I don't know where I'm going to go. And they made a carrier company out of it. Mm-hmm. They take the whole company, put them on the ship to go to Germany. We don't know where we're going, we don't know where they're going to send us. Because right at that time, the Russians were coming into Hungary, and they were going to set up perimeters and everything like that, and that's what they were going to use us for. We were going to be the stop for the Russians that were coming into Hungary. As it turned out, the Hungarians did like this. Nothing. They did in 56, all right? Mm-hmm. And that's what we were there for. The whole troop, the whole thing was all set to help the Hungarians.
Now stopping red tanks in Korea, it's the 3.5-inch rocket launcher, or Super Bazooka, firing a 9-pound rocket at an effective range of 300 yards with a force that can penetrate 11 inches of armor plate.
After the basic training, I was a 3.5 rocket launcher. This is the guy that carries the ammunition. You hurried up and you'd wait. That was the time, all of the military. I don't know what are they going to do? I'm an infantryman, 1745. That's my MOS. Changed it on a piece of paper. 1:30, you're now armor. I get into it. They bring me into it. I'm looking at these guys. I says, gee, I said, it's a whole different world. And when I was trained in the infantry there, I was a 3.5 rocket launcher guy. So I was the one that was doing the rocket launcher, mainly to knock out tanks. I went from learning how to knock out tanks and to being in the tank.
The Patton 48 can take the elements in stride and keep on going. It proved it on this water hole, 100 feet across and 4 feet deep.
It's a whole different world. I'm going from basic infantry and going into armor. They put me as a gunner, all right? I'm going to maintain that 90 millimeter, blast your ears out.
Gunner, Sable tank.
Identified.
Jump.
Blazing.
Fire.
On the way.
I've been traveling over mountains, even through the valleys too.
They took care of you. You got to eat. You had to eat chow before them. You got to eat before them. You didn't have to wait in lines and everything like that. All the time you were in track and stuff like I had a pass that I could go out nighttime. I used all of my leave time to go to Berchtesgaden. That's in Germany. But we went to Italy. I went to Italy with my army buddies. I took took them to Rome. We went, and it was the same 3-4 guys that went to, that traveled. It was a wonderful experience there, really. You learned a lot. I mean, geez, I was a learning guy. I was 19 years old. Everything was new, you know. For me, I grew up. I come home a different guy. I mean, I was not the same.
Standing on a corner, watching all the girls go by.
To get me off the street where I lived, to get me into a place where it was very orderly. In other words, direction, to learn how to take direction, and to grow up and not to be a kid. Of all my experiences, that was the thing that made me grow up.
Watching all the girls, watching all the girls, watching all the girls go by.
To be kind to people, to be good with people, to appreciate anything they do, to thank people, to be grateful. Those are the things that military, oh yeah, you're thankful for anything and everything.
So we have Bob Tosi Jr. here.
Yes.
Bob, do you want to tell us how your father's doing? Because he wasn't able to be here.
Yeah, he wasn't able to be. He turned 90 on December 7th of last month. He's in good spirits, it's just normal. But they shared the story of him joining the track team. But he never did track in high school. But he heard about, you know, it was a good gig to sign up for. So, but his commanding officer, when he says, you know, he just said, I can do this, I can run, I can jump. You know, you got to run, jump, march anyways in the military. And this commanding officer says, well, if you don't, your ass will be right back here again. So he went out there and just did it.
Any other? Yeah, George.
I actually fired a 3.5-inch bazooka in training. And it was a very, very cold February day. And on the range, they made you put your hand up on your helmet so that they could make sure that
a snow-covered ground in front of a group of buildings under a cloudy sky.
And it was so cold that there was a recoil, and I had a black eye because your sight, and it just bounced back. It's not totally victorious.
All right. You're ready to move on. Several decades going forward to Vietnam.
Doubt and debate are enlarged because the problems of Vietnam are quite complex.
All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye.
I was officially stationed in Taiwan, which was in the Vietnam theater, so it counted as service there. 314th Field Maintenance Squadron, our job with the C-130s was to supply all the material that was necessary for the war effort. They needed a clerk at the connection down there, so I was spent from January of 1969 to June, 2 weeks before I came back, in Cam Ranh Bay. On my off days, I would go on the C-130s and fly around and get experience. I learned to become an assistant loadmaster. I had no official designation, but I would help the loadmasters on the C-130. Got to see the good and the bad and the ugly part of it.
And the beat goes on.
If you've arrived in Vietnam after October 1st, there's a new regulation out that says the name tags on your fatigue uniforms must slant down along the tops of the pockets. So get with it.
When the beer ration would arrive, it seemed to be the only time other than when President Johnson arrived that security was the tightest. Different groups would commandeer some of the supplies. The steak ration, a couple of pallets would disappear every now and then to the different people, and we ate well. Steak that was destined for the Officers Club didn't always make it to all the Officers Club. We take 50-gallon drums, cut them in half, and make barbecue. One of the fun times, right near my barracks, there were some septic tanks. Well, one night a rocket hit one of those places, and literally there was stuff flying all over the place.
And the next morning, it was hilarious. One of the things the C-130s did was called a touch and go. The back of the C-130 opened up, and normally when it was landed, the pallets would slide out on these tracks and stuff and be picked up by forklifts or just slide out. On a touch and go, the moment the plane touched down, it was giving it full throttle to take off again, and the stuff was being pushed out or pulled out by parachutes. A couple of times we were told, everyone move forward, they're drawing fire at the end of the runway. I got up and moved about 10 feet, and right where I was sitting, a hole was blown. And I got to tell you, I wet my pants, I'll be honest with you. It scared the hell out of me. It was real.
Now the time has come to leave you one more time. Let me kiss you, then close your eyes. I'll be on my way.
Some of the sad times was when the C-130s would come in and they would be departing with the dead. You'd see the coffins. They'd come in body bags. I still get chills thinking about that. I was on a plane once that had body bags, and one of the guys got on the plane and he still had a load. I don't remember if it was a pistol or a gun, and he started opening the body bags, and he was looking for his friend, and he pulled. Somebody tried to stop him, and he turned the gun on him, and somebody talked him down. He was an emotional mess. I don't think any charges were ever filed against him. I think they understood his emotional state and everything. He had lost his best friend. We found that out afterwards.
The peace movement's got to go into the streets, and it's got to use the tactic of disruption, because the American people are drunk with apathy, because they don't care. Our country is now in the situation that Germany was in the 40s. We're committing mass murder.
We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place. Girl, there's a better life for me and you.
When I came back, that's when it really hit me. The lack of appreciation or the lack of respect. And with the demonstrations going on and stuff, we ignored it. It got to the point where you didn't want to argue. You just ignored it. In 1990-91, the local veterans in Groton wanted to welcome back the Iraqi vets. And a couple of Korean vets and World War II vets said, it's time to welcome back the Vietnam vets. I'm going to get emotional over this, but I don't know how they found our names. We came, and all of a sudden, we're looking around, and I'm looking around, and there's 3 or 4 guys that I had been teaching with for over 10 years, and we had never mentioned it. Excuse me. We swore we'd never be ashamed again.
Of you, every song I sing for you. When I come back, I'll wear your wedding ring. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I don't know when I'll be back again, leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again, leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go.
That picture of me in the uniform, the mustache, I just started growing it. And if you ever watch MASH, it's 10, 15 years before, but all the jokes, all the funny, you had to release the downside. So, growing the mustaches, we had wax. They were out to here. We had a real GI come in, he says, No mustaches beyond here. So we all turned them down and we're walking around the swing down the way. He then went out like this and like this. So we all took them going like this. There was no way he was going to put out a picture like that. But they all got bumped in. I shaved mine off because one morning I woke up with my lip going, rrr, rrr. A fly got caught in the wax. So that was it. I have a beard because I cut my upper lip. Can't shave well, and I eventually, when I trim it, it looked like Hitler, so I grew the beard. I grew up in the Air Force. I had flunked out of college two and a half times. I was about to flunk out the third time, just goofing off and partying. When I came back, thank God for the GI Bill. We got married 2 weeks after I came back, and when I got out of the service, the A's and B's were easier to get than the F's and D's. I admit it, and it was an experience. As a teacher, the biggest benefit was I learned the word no meant not right now. All you had to do was find the right person and wheel and deal, and you could find whatever you needed. So it worked. There were more positive than negative. The day that septic tank blew up, Jeff there were things in these interviews that did not make the tape. I used an expletive of what was hanging on. You have to appreciate it was 90-degree weather, 90% humidity, with stuff hanging and dripping from all the buildings. Nobody got hurt, thank God. But it was, be happy to answer any questions. Jeff did a phenomenal job of finding all these things. The pictures, individual pictures the vets would give, but connecting all these things just makes it interesting.
I told Bill that I was one of the anti-Vietnam crew, and I remember being at a cocktail party and getting in the face of a military guy who was there. And I thought I just had the right to stand up to him because I thought our government was so off-kilter in being in this war. Now I look back on it and I'm certainly embarrassed by how I behaved with him.
That's the beauty of this country.
And I also remember being, when I was in social work school here, there was a huge anti-war parade. We paraded all the way from Boston College all the way in to the Boston Garden. And it was enormous crowd, mostly of students that were just so opposed to it. I remember my mother just being totally embarrassed that her daughter was doing this. This stuff was just awful. Any other reactions? Yes.
My husband was in Vietnam, and he was a dentist in '69, and he started in his operatory a petition to stop the war. And he's written up in the book Long Brave Line because he was this dentist that had I still have the petition signed by West Point graduates, and I still have that petition. He was about to be court-martialed, and he decided to stop because he had a daughter, not mine, but he was married before. Yeah. And he was just interviewed by Ken Burns.
All the vets that I've known, that I know, and when we started talking about it, there's no animosity. Looking back, I think everyone, that's what makes this, what we were there for, the right to say no, the right to stand. The different parts of it, it was a different world. The downside, one of the biggest things that came out of this, both sides of it, was that 18-year-olds got to vote. They dropped it from 21. I was 21 before I could vote. They came up with the idea, if you can die for your country, you should have a right to have a say in the government. And that's one of the upsides. Civics took a beating in the education. Because when I first started teaching, there was a lot of civics, but because of the anti-war being, it literally, in this country, we don't stop in the middle. Pushed it all out. And it's just starting to come back. It's just starting to come back. And sorry, I get a little on my pontificate.
All right, I think we're ready for our fourth and final vignette.
freshman in BU Law School. Local Arlington board said, sorry about that, and I was drafted.
Your man in Vietnam. In today's Action Army, see your Army recruiter.
For reasons that I'm not sure of, I decided the best thing I could do at that time was to enlist to be an officer. I was shipped to Fort Belvoir in Virginia, which was the officer candidate school. There was some gung-ho SOBs training us, and they wanted us to sing service songs. They're all about death and killing. Some crazy kill the enemy songs, you know. You know what we sang? We sang California Dreamin'. We marched to that, and they try to kill us. Oh, see that gravel road? Everybody down, roll crawl up the gravel road. Everybody's shredded by the time they get to the top. You gonna sing that song next time we go out marching? I won't say it on camera, but yes, mother effer. And we did. We marched to California Dreamin'. When that song comes on, I almost start to cry. Because there's the guys I went through hell with to become commissioned. California Dreamin'. Six months later, about half of us made it through, about 55 of us out of 120, and I was commissioned as a second lieutenant. And oxymoron, I was commissioned in military intelligence. I was assigned to a desk that was working on Africa, and I was a section leader there. I had a top secret clearance and worked with people from all over the world developing intelligence on the military capabilities of some countries in Africa. And I enjoyed being an officer at the time, made the best of it. And I was the recipient of a lot of the returnees from Vietnam. A lot of the enlisted men in my company, in my battalion, were coming back from Vietnam. And most of them were troubled. I was assigned by the company commander to go into the billets and make sure they got up. They would sleep with the covers over their head, with their entrenching tools open, with a shovel that opened up, and it has a spike about this long. They would sleep with those things under their blankets. So I used to tap and move back, because they'd come out of there ready. They didn't see the war so much from a broader political perspective, which I had. I mean, I got a degree in government at Boston University, and my eyes were opened to Vietnam, before Vietnam.
To report that renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
The Gulf of Tonkin resolution was bull. So I had a broader perspective than when I went into BU. They didn't have that perspective. Here I am going to fight for my country when I had a lot of information that said the best and the brightest were wrong in putting us into that situation. I think history has judged it already, a mistake. And so going through that matures you in a way that nothing but the service could possibly do. I was a leader, came out a net positive. You go from being a boy to a man.
The Army calls it basic training. It is, in fact, a time of trial, a time to separate the men from the boys.
But I'll be forever lucky I wasn't one of the ones that had to go there and then come back permanently changed.
This one really resonated with me as I was a political science major, and I remember being in political science classes back in the late 1960s, just when this was getting underway. And learning from the professors, looking at that whole area and what was going on and why the Russians didn't solve Vietnam, the French didn't solve Vietnam, and why did we think that we were going to solve it and with so much of a price to pay. So I certainly knew that that was kind of the foundation of where I ended up being a protester. So any other comments? Yes?
Just comment on what Gene said about the guys coming back, the damage and stuff. When I came back, flew from Vietnam, Taiwan, 8 hours, up to Tokyo, 2 hours, Seattle, 4 hours, Boston. That was it. No downtime. I had 2 weeks. Report to my next base. Father Mark, Iraq, Navy chaplain. When he came back, it took him 12 to 8 days, he said, to get back. They went up to Ramstein, a couple of days, sit down, talk, down in New Jersey, to California, he named all the places. Debrief, depressurize, identify who has issues and stuff. All the scars. And like I said, in mine, it took almost 20 years to even talk about it. Still have trouble talking about it, but it's changed somewhat. Some of the things have. I want to emphasize, I don't know of any vet from Vietnam that I've talked to that feels negative about the protest.
Great. Well, and Bill, thank you for bringing this to us. Don't you think those videos were just incredible, and they were so well done, so poignant and so personalized? So thank you for that.
I'd like to also mention Jack Kraemer. He's another vet, Vietnam vet. He's right here. He's on the list. I'm going to send Patsy the list of all the links, the YouTube links that you can watch it. ACMi, the little red part at the beginning is the news program where they were showing these originally. I'm trying to work with ACMi, give them the credit at the beginning to cut it off. The last 4 that we have no ACMi on it. One of them, and I invite anyone else, videos is a woman who talks about letters from her father from Korea. And I'm gonna, a little spoiler. One of the letters he wrote to Chef Boyardee. Chef Boyardee complained. Their Chef Boyardee spaghetti meatballs were designed for 2 people. And one of the cans had only 3 meatballs in it. Very upset. Very scared about it. Chef Boyardee sent his unit a whole pallet full.
All right.
So, again, the funny parts, they offset. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming, everybody.
Will we get somebody from Afghanistan?
I'm looking.
I think that would be important.
The next
right down to the president.
The new veterans officers. We have a new veterans service officer that just came on board. He was going to come today. He had another training thing to do. We're trying to find a way to reach out to the younger vets. I mean, the vets that you saw here are all retired. Makes it real easy to set it up. We have one in the make, our fire chief, Kevin Kelly. He's done his. We're trying to get that process. We're going to reach out to them, and we want them more. The veterans have a veterans breakfast at Brightview, second Tuesday of every month. On the third Friday of every month, we have donuts and coffee at the community center. When we started it, we had Dunkin' Donuts. We'd have 4 or 5 guys. Since we went to Gale Lane Donuts, what do we have? 10 to 15 people? And we commiserate. It's the stuff that we don't get at home. Sorry, it's true. Guilt.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you. Sorry. Yes.
How do you encourage people to talk? My dad was in World War II and never wanted to talk about it. How do you, if I knew somebody who went through
the way, after that meeting in honoring the Iraqi vets, we got together. And I think we drunk ourselves sober until 4 o'clock in the morning up in air. And we started talking, and made a commitment. There was one guy who really had a lot of stuff hanging and talking. Vets talking to vets, it's easier, to me. And little by little, our coffee clutches, sometimes we share, funny anecdotes and stuff like that, things you don't think about.
I'll answer that too. Hopefully time. It was 30 years before he wanted to start talking about anything.
Now, Jack went back to Vietnam. He has gone back. That was a tough thing.
Yeah.
My wife's asked me, and I'm not ready to go. No?
All right, everybody, thanks for coming again.
Thank you.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.